Hey, what's up, San Diego? Welcome to the Max Zaker Show. I am so excited that you're joining me for our first show. Did I say, by the way, this is my first show? So if you see me waffle a little, I'll get better at it. Obviously, I'm a little nervous being in front of the camera, but I'm so excited that you're here. And what you can expect on our show is this going to be all about San Diego. What's going on in San Diego, the lifestyle, the cooking, the fashion, and all the amazing things that you may or may not know about San Diego. So if you did not know, San Diego is a border community with Tijuana and Mexico. As a matter of fact, where I'm sitting, where I'm doing this podcast with you today, well, I'm about 20 to 25 minutes away from Tijuana. And I make frequent visits there. In fact, I get my haircut there. I have my favorite barbershop in Tijuana. And guess what? While I'm there, I'll try some amazing cuisine. So Tijuana over time has become an explosion of culture and arts and culinary cuisine, as is San Diego. So we're so fortunate. I feel so fortunate that I live in such a city that allows me to enjoy what there is to offer on both sides of the border. So, and of course, hey, Super Bowl, right? Sunday, I'm gonna have some friends over at my house, and we're supposed to have an amazing weather today. I think they said it's gonna go up to in the 80s today and tomorrow. So, sunny San Diego, but wherever you're at, thank you for joining me, and I hope that we can offer you something of value and excitement. So, but before we get started, maybe, I don't know how much you know about me, or maybe you heard something about me that may be true, maybe not. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about who I am, where I came from, how I ended up where I am. Why am I doing this? What is this all about? And then what we'll do is every week we'll invite a special guest to join us on our show so that we can talk about what is going on throughout San Diego. And I want to keep this local. But, at times we may wander off a little bit and look at kind of what's going on around the country and perhaps around the globe. Because, we're now a very connected global community. So we'll see how that goes. We'll just play it by ear. So a little bit about me. Again, Max Zaker, I'm your host for this show. I've never done this before. It's the first time in my life that I'm actually venturing out in this world of global communication. So I was born in Iran, which is a country far away from here. You may or may not have heard about it. Some people refer to it as Persia. In fact, people often ask me, why is it, sometimes you say I'm Persian, I'm Iranian. I don't really have a good answer for that, but you can look that up yourself. But essentially, it's the same thing. It's an amazing country with, more than 2,500 years of history. You can look that up for yourself again. That's where I was born. And, I was one of those kids that not your average kid, not a troubled kid. I think I was pretty good, but I was always exploring. I wanted to know what's going on around the world, and I knew that was going to take me to a place far away. And guess what? It did. At the age 15, in fact, I moved to Germany and I lived with a German family, and that's where the name Max came from. So it kind of just stuck with me, and I lived with this amazing German family. They were my guardians, learned a lot from them. And after 10 years, I decided that I was going to move again. So this time my journey took me to London, England. And that's where I spent quite a few years of my life, about 12 years. And I remember arriving in the airport, the London Heathrow Airport, and I did not speak a word of English. So just think about that for a second. Just think about it for a second. You're 16 years old. You are in a new country that you know nothing about, and you do not speak the language. And wow. Anyways, but I made it. And I learned the language within 6 months. And I'm going to share a little bit of it. I'm going to get personal on you. And people will say, why did you learn the language so quick? I met this English girl. In fact, I still remember her name. And I have to tell you, I give her all the credit, because she spent so much time with me and just kind of, taught me the language. And of course, I went to a language school and all that good stuff. But it was really through a conversational process that I actually learned English. So I ended up living in England for about 12 years. That's where I finished high school. I went to college. And for most of the years that I lived in England, at that time, I had this love and passion for food and hospitality. So I actually ended up working at a really cool place, a hotel called the Waldorf Hotel. And in fact, there is one in New York, but I work at the original Waldorf Hotel for about 3 years in London, England, where I got to meet all kinds of celebrities and actors and all these famous people that would come there and just wanted to hang out. And, I started working in the kitchen as a dishwasher. And then, I was always a hard worker. And I don't know why, but within like 2.5 to 3 years, I ended up actually being a floor manager. So I was on the floor hanging out with all these cool American and European celebrities that I had only seen their faces in the magazine and on TV. And I couldn't believe that. Oh my God, I'm right there with them. And I'm actually saying hi to them and taking pictures with them. So it really gave me a perspective. And what I learned is a lot of these people, they're actually really cool people, just like you and I. And, but often we have a different perception of who they are. So, and then my journey didn't stop there. And for those of you that those of you that are old enough know that there was a massive revolution that happened in my home country in Iran in the late 70s, which prompted a lot of the Iranians that perhaps did not agree with that form of government. They decided to migrate, to the West. So some went to European countries and some came here to the U.S. So most of my family, they ended up migrating here in the late 70s, early 80s. And eventually I decided that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to move to the U.S. So I arrived in San Diego. And by then, most of my family had been here. And this has been home, actually, for most of my life. So I've lived in San Diego for most of my life. I won't tell you how many. I'm not going to give my age away. You can figure that out by yourself. And I just fell in love with San Diego. And of course, there were a lot of things that were missing for me at the beginning because I grew up in Europe. But I found that San Diego has really, over time, become this amazing blend of culture and history and many wonderful things that I have the privilege and to be able to enjoy on a daily basis. And of course, since I've lived in San Diego, I've been an entrepreneur, and some of you that are watching that may know me, you probably know me as a business dude. Again, we'll talk about this more through our podcast. We'll get more specific about some of the things that I have adventured in. But if I was to sum up my life, it's all been about pursuing opportunities and sometimes creating opportunities for other people. But it's been about entrepreneurship. I think, true, that's my belief system. And that's probably what attracted me, to move to the U.S. It's this free enterprise system that I've learned to work within it and make that work for me. And I hope that through our podcast, through our shows, that I can share with you some of the things that I did, what worked, what didn't work. And not all of it worked, by the way. There have been successes and failures along the way. But I'm hoping that I can share that with you so that perhaps you take some practical nuggets out of it so that you can do that for yourself. Because I do believe we're all talented, but perhaps in different ways. My talent may be different than yours, and yours may be different than someone else, but we're all talented. The question is, do we know what our talents are? And it took me a few years to figure that out. So we'll be talking about some of that stuff. And by the way, reach out to us. If you have some specific questions that you want me to dig a little deeper, maybe talk a little more about it, things that are maybe of interest to you, or people that you want to have on our show. And it could be anything from politics to food, arts, entertainment, culture, entrepreneurs, people that have done amazing things. We want to have them on our show, and we want to have some conversations. So we're going to break it down, and we're going to talk about it, and our conversations would be free flow. But I hope that this would be an interactive and engaging conversation. So make sure you let us know what's important to you. Who are some of your local heroes, people that have inspired you, so that we can get them here. We can talk to them. So some of my favorite things, again, just so you know, I love to eat. I'm a foodie, but I also love to cook food. So one of the things that my wife and I actually do for fun when we have a long day at work is we go home and we cook. And then equally, we enjoy dining out and traveling. I've done quite a bit of traveling in my time, but I have a long bucket list. And usually we try to travel 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. Sometimes it's close, sometimes it's far. As a matter of fact, I think next week we're about to go to Oaxaca in Mexico. Never been there, but I've heard really cool stuff about it. And then other things, we currently own and operate several companies, and we'll talk a little more about those, what they are, how I ended up. But I'll tell you, in my so many years that I've been in business for myself, I have ventured out in a variety of businesses. I'm just going to run through them really quick. I've owned restaurants. I've owned bars, kind of sort of nightclubish bars. I've owned dry cleaning businesses. Yeah, you heard it right. I've published newspapers. I've been in the transportation business. I have worked for companies. I've ran small, large companies. I've been in the development business. I've developed properties. I've worked for developers. Gosh, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch of stuff. And I've had a lot of gigs along the way. But one thing has always been consistent for me is that I always learn. And I always made sure that I was open to learning. And by that, I don't mean academical learning, although I think, having academical learning is important. So, but I'm talking about life learning. And there are days, honestly, that I go to my office and I learn something from the gal that's sitting at the front desk. So again, this idea of staying open to learning. And if you were to commit to learning just one thing every day, just imagine what that will do to your life. If you were to learn one new thing every day, before you know it, you'll have an amazing toolbox of knowledge that you can apply to your life. So, again, what to expect on our show would be all things about San Diego. And in fact, I'm excited to let you know that next week on our show here, and this is going to be a weekly show, we'll have one of the candidates that's going to be running for the city attorney position in the city of Chula Vista. So I'm going to have him on my show, and we're going to dig into it, what that means, what does the city attorney does, and what does that mean to you and I. So he'll be on our show, and we have a line of amazing people that I'll be announcing weekly. So again, if you have someone that you would like us to bring on, let us know. We'll do our best. Hopefully they accept our invitation. But until then, I appreciate you joining me. Stay focused, and I look forward to seeing you on this show next week.